I get asked all the time, how do I write such great characters? So here are my top tips for coming up with good story characters. I don't tend to start with character. Writers often debate whether a novel is character-led or story-led. I'm going to give my own slightly woolly answer that I always think these things are so intertwined it's impossible to separate them, which is probably another reason why writing is much harder than it looks. I find I usually start with setting. What sort of story would I like to write? This usually starts to bring the characters into focus. If you write post-apocalyptic stories or historical stories or something set in a school in a small town, already the sorts of things your protagonist will face will be very different. You need to visualize a main character who will help you to write the sort of story you want to write. Are there big themes you want to bring in? If you want to write a survival story or a mystery with a theme of justice and secrets, or an epic historical adventure, I think it helps to know this even before you get to your main character, because knowing whose story you're telling and why you want to tell it makes a huge difference to what happens in the story. My story ideas usually start with imagining a single scene. And immediately I start to ask myself questions. Who would be here in this scene? What has brought them here? So yes, I'm quickly into character. And from there, I can usually quite quickly know what I call the situation. The big thing that this story will be about. By starting here, I find I more easily get to a jumping off point and discover what story these characters might be wanting to tell. The next question to ask yourself, what does your character want to achieve and what's stopping them? These are the sorts of conflicts that are going to be the beating heart of your story. What your character faces could be called the external factors in a story, but one of the most important things about characters is their internal life. Giving characters a strong internal life is one of the ways writers create good or memorable characters. So don't neglect what your characters are struggling with on the inside. This is one of the best ways to bring characters to life. Again, I try to focus on the themes of the story to help me with this. If you can work out your themes, writing meaningful characters becomes easier because you can give them personality traits that amplify your themes. Thinking about your story in terms of obstacles or outcomes is helpful to me in building characters. Often, what is stopping people achieving their ambitions is a mixture of outside factors, not knowing how to fight a dragon on the high tower, as well as internal character flaws which need to be overcome, a fear of heights. This is why I find the next thing I do is to start to think of their strengths and weaknesses and flaws. Again, I pick things that are going to help me when I tell the story. It all helps me to shape the story into something I'm really keen to write. I start to develop each character by thinking, what are their strong points? What characteristics will they need that will help them get to the end of the story with the right outcome? And what might be stopping them from reaching their goals? This is why character and plot are both so intertwined. It helps me, once I have a setting, a basic situation and theme, and at least one character I want to write about, is to think about the protagonist, their adversary. Who is stopping them reaching their goals? When we talk about baddies or adversaries, this does not have to mean an obvious arch villain. Maybe the dynamic you want to build on is a story about a coming of age drama where you might have a mother-daughter relationship. Who is going to be the baddie? Or how someone who is a campaigner for truth and justice comes up against someone they believe is unscrupulous but everyone loves. Will your protagonist compromise their beliefs if it's the only way to win? Who is helping them? This is the time when I find it's fun to play and explore. How can you use other characters in your story to amplify the conflicts which are going to keep the reader hooked and build on the central themes? Some writers at this stage can do detailed character biographies so they know what sort of childhood they had, what work they do and whether they enjoy it, their hobbies, favourite foods. You can do these if it helps you. Note, I have not yet talked about physical characteristics. I always try to include physical characteristics that are important, as I do not want my reader too focused on the physical traits. I want them focusing on their personality. I try to simplify everything down. I think it helps me as much as my readers if I can focus. I try to sum up my main character in 3 words, which are their defining features, e.g., downtrodden, kind, shapeshifter. I try to think of the core things at the heart of their being that their friends might say about them. Are they brave and intelligent or lazy and shy? I do try to do this for all my characters, even the minor ones. And I try to mix it up so that the characters, even the friends, have some kind of conflict. So someone might be brave and intelligent, their biggest helper someone more intuitive and emotional, and their adversary might be manipulative and lucky. All the time I am thinking conflict, conflict, conflict. I find my characters develop as I write them. I always have these grand aims to be a planner, but for me, I do a lot of thinking by writing. So usually at this stage, I am already thinking about how I can get down a first draft as quickly as possible, because by the end of the very rough first draft, which I usually don't even dignify as calling a first draft, I call it a draft 0, because then when I reach the end, I know where my main character is going to end up. Somehow that means I know a lot more about them, what they've struggled with, which strengths and flaws have been important. So very often when I return to the beginning and try to impose some sort of order and write an actual first draft, the cardboard character that starts out life at the beginning is not the same character who finishes the book. Once I know them properly, writing becomes easier. So I do not worry if I do not know them well before I start. We journey together. From my main characters and my minor ones, I do often use, this is my final tip, I do use people from real life. Not an entire person, but I'm a great observer of other people, and I'm always noticing things that are odd or interesting about people, and I do make use of these elements. Watching and listening carefully to other people, I think, is stock in trade for a writer.